There's something quietly shaping your future. And it isn't luck, it isn't talent, it isn't the opportunities you've been given. In fact, most people spend their entire lives without ever noticing it, yet every single day, it quietly decides the person they are becoming. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The alarm rings. For just a few seconds, everything is still. Nothing has happened yet. Today could become the beginning of a completely different life. Or it could become another copy of yesterday. Then, almost without thinking, you make your first decision. Maybe you reach for your phone. Maybe you tell yourself you'll exercise tomorrow instead. Maybe you replay the same worry that has greeted you every morning for years. It seems too small to matter. But let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why life can feel so different for two people, even when they experience almost the same circumstances? Why does one person become stronger after failure, while another spends years trapped inside it? Why does one person see opportunity, while another only sees risk? Most people believe the answer is confidence, or intelligence, or luck. Psychologists discovered something very different. The difference usually begins long before the moment itself. It begins with what each person has been repeating long before that day ever arrived. Think about a river. No single drop of water has enough strength to cut through solid rock. Yet, give that river enough time, and mountains begin to change shape. No one looks at the last drop and says, "That was the one." Because everyone understands something important. The river was never powerful because of one drop. It was powerful because it never stopped flowing. Your mind works the same way. One negative thought won't change your life. Neither will one positive thought. One day of discipline won't transform you. Neither will one day of procrastination. The real power has always been hidden somewhere else, in repetition. Every thought you repeat, every emotion you rehearse, every choice you make again and again, is quietly teaching your brain one simple lesson. This is who we are. That's how identities are built, not through dramatic moments, but through ordinary ones. Imagine a sculptor standing in front of a giant block of marble with a single strike. Nothing impressive happens. Another strike. Still nothing. 100 strikes later, the stone looks almost the same, but deep inside, its shape is already changing. Then one day, a beautiful statue appears. People admire the masterpiece. Almost nobody thinks about the thousands of tiny strikes that made it possible. Your future works exactly the same way. People see confidence. They don't see the daily promises you kept to yourself. People see success. They don't see the hundreds of mornings you chose consistency instead of comfort. People see peace. They don't see the years you spent learning how to quiet your own mind. We admire the statue, but we forget the sculptor. Here's what fascinated me most when I first began studying behavioral psychology. Your brain isn't trying to make you successful. Its first job is much simpler: to make tomorrow feel familiar. Because familiarity feels safe, even when it hurts. That's why people stay inside habits they know are destroying them. Not because they enjoy suffering, because the familiar always whispers, "Stay here, at least you know this place." Maybe you've experienced that yourself. You know you should have the difficult conversation, but you don't. You know you should start writing, but tomorrow feels easier. You know your life needs to change. Yet every morning, your old routine quietly welcomes you home, not with force, with comfort. And comfort can become one of the strongest prisons in the world. This is why changing your life feels so difficult. You're not simply fighting a habit. You're challenging a version of yourself that your brain has practiced thousands of times. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. If repetition created the person you are today, then repetition can also create the person you're capable of becoming. That sounds simple. It isn't. Because there is one invisible mistake almost everyone makes when they try to change. They focus on changing their actions, while ignoring the thing that creates those actions in the first place. And until you understand that difference, you'll keep starting over, again and again. So what is that invisible mistake? Surprisingly, the answer connects modern psychology, the law of attraction, and one of the oldest principles ever taught about human life. And once you understand how those three ideas fit together, you'll never look at another ordinary day the same way again. So, what is the invisible mistake that keeps so many people trapped? They try to change what they do, without changing who they believe they are. Imagine a tree standing in the middle of a field. Every autumn, its leaves begin to fall. Now imagine someone walking over and carefully taping every leaf back onto the branches. It might look better for a day, maybe even a week, but sooner or later, the leaves will fall again. Because the problem was never the leaves, it was always the roots. Many of us spend our lives trying to change the leaves, a new routine, a new planner, a new motivational video, a new promise. Yet we never question the roots beneath them, the beliefs we've repeated for years. I'm not disciplined. I'm always unlucky. I never finish what I start. I've always been this way. Here's something remarkable. Your brain doesn't distinguish very well between a story you tell yourself and a story you repeatedly experience. Repeat a thought often enough, and your brain begins treating it as reality, not because it's true, because it's familiar. This is why identity matters more than motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Identity stays. A person who believes, I am someone who takes care of my health, doesn't wake up every morning arguing about whether to exercise. A person who believes, I always keep my promises to myself, doesn't rely on inspiration. Their actions are simply an expression of who they believe they are. This is where modern psychology reveals something extraordinary. Every repeated action sends feedback to your brain, not just about what you did, but about who you are. Every time you choose patience over anger, your brain whispers, this is us. Every time you choose courage over fear, this is us. Every time you choose honesty, discipline, compassion, this is us. Identity isn't discovered, it's built, one decision at a time. And now, something even more interesting happens. For thousands of years, ancient wisdom has spoken about the law of cause and effect, whether people called it karma, sowing and reaping, or simply the consequences of our choices. The message remained the same. Every action plants a seed. Some seeds grow quickly, others remain hidden beneath the surface. Imagine planting a bamboo seed. For years, almost nothing appears above the ground. Many people would assume nothing is happening. But beneath the soil, an entire root system is forming. Then, one season, it rises with astonishing speed. People call it sudden success, but it was never sudden, it was simply invisible. Your own life often works the same way. Every book you read, every difficult conversation you choose to have, every morning you decide not to quit, every act of kindness no one notices, every moment you refuse to become the person your past expected you to be. Those are roots. You may not see the results today, but that doesn't mean nothing is growing. This is also where many people misunderstand the law of attraction. They think it's about wishing, about visualizing, about hoping hard enough, but hope without action changes very little. Real attraction begins with alignment, when your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your identity all begin moving in the same direction. You don't attract a different future simply because you imagined it. You begin creating a different future because every part of your life is pointing toward it. That's why two people can read the same book, hear the same advice, watch the same video, yet only one of them changes. The difference isn't knowledge, It's repetition. Knowledge changes the mind for a moment. Repetition changes the person. So let me ask you one final question. 1 year from now, when you wake up, who will be making your first decision? The version of you built by yesterday's repetitions? Or the version you're beginning to build today, because tomorrow's life is already being shaped, not by one giant decision, but by the quiet choices no one applauds. Before this video ends, don't promise yourself you'll change everything. Choose one thing, one thought to replace, one habit to repeat, one promise to keep. Make it so small that you have no excuse not to begin. Then repeat it tomorrow and the day after that. Not because one day will change your life, but because one day, repeated often enough, always does. Remember, your future isn't created in the moments everyone sees. It's created in the moments only you will ever know. The quiet mornings, the difficult decisions, the invisible victories. One day, people will look at your life and say, "You've changed." They'll think it happened overnight. Only you will know the truth. It happened one ordinary choice, repeated, until it became the person you were always capable of becoming. If this message found you today, don't let it become another video you enjoyed. Let it become the first small decision your future self will thank you for. Because healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens one thought, one choice, one day, repeated, until it becomes your life.